All right, by now, guys, you know I love talking about old wrestling. What you might not know is it's not my real passion. My real passion is helping people save money. My real passion is getting families out of apartments and into houses. My real passion is getting people's finances aligned so they can retire on time. I hated going to Walmart and seeing the greeter being 80 years old. She should not be working. She should be home. Why is she still working? Because she still has a mortgage. I want to help avoid that for you. The other thing I want to help you with, let's make sure your kids don't get saddled with student loans. If you've got a student loan, why did you get one? Maybe because your parents still had a mortgage. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm being sincere. There's only so much money to go around. What I want to help you do is figure out where you are right now and where you want to be long term. And I do it at SaveWithConrad.com. I've been doing mortgages for more than 20 years. And during all that time, we've helped tens of thousands of families change their life. I mean, routinely, we're helping our podcast listeners save $500, $600, $700, $800 a month. But more importantly, get them out of debt faster and with cheaper monthly payments. But if you don't think it can happen for you, let me just tell you this. We are not the bank. We don't say no. We say not yet, but here's how. We're going to get you a game plan on how to improve your credit, how to save a little bit of cash, and how to get into that dream house. Maybe you're already in the house, but it would be nice if someday we could put a pool in the back, or one day we want to upgrade to hardwood floors, or remodel the kitchen, or get a badass master bathroom. I can help you do all of that with no money out of pocket right now at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. Check it out, SaveWithConrad.com, NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. And hey, y'all, don't take my word for it. Check us out. We've got an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. And as if that's not enough, go look at our reviews. Read them and weep, haters. ConradReviews.com. You'll see more than 1,000 5-star reviews. Our average review is 4.72 stars. Find out how much money you can save. Take control of your life in 2023 by taking control of your finances. We're going to show you how to keep more of your own money. If you've got credit card debt, what are you paying on that? 14%? 28%? You know you can do better. With the mortgage, though, you may not know this, the interest you pay is tax deductible. And we can even show you how to skip your next 2 house payments. So if you can get a lower monthly payment, pay your debt off faster, get a greater tax deduction at the end of the year, and right now, right after the holidays, skip your next 2 payments, buddy, this is the biggest no-brainer in the history of the world. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com, or hey man, shoot me an email directly, Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com.
Hey guys, it's the hardcore legend Mick Foley here, and I need to call a quick timeout, a brief timeout, because I wanted to tell your listeners what I have been telling Foley is Pod listeners for a while now about all the cool things happening over on AdFreeShows.com.
The road to WrestleMania has begun, and in this Ad-Free Shows exclusive, Tony and JR sit down to call the action from some of WrestleMania's biggest matches, including the end of The Undertaker's streak.
Hard-hitting war. I thought that Taker kicked out. I was wrong. And maybe that's because of my prejudice, but I wanted to see Taker win.
Yeah, I would have liked to see 22-0 as well. But this is a historic moment. It really is, in not only in WrestleMania history, but in all of pro wrestling, if you think about it.
What does everybody want? How about a sit-down exclusive with Al Snow, who discusses a wide range of topics, including his dear friend, Jim Cornette.
Jimmy knows and understands his gimmick. And he knows and understands what draws for him. And like any good worker, Jimmy's going to capitalize on it, you know. And a lot of what you see is not Jim Cornette. It's an aspect of Jim Cornette. And it's just an aspect that Jimmy's turned the volume up on, apparently, as the years went on, a lot, you know.
Ad-Free Show members recently sat shotgun alongside Kevin Nash for a live watch-along of his WWE Championship match against Shawn Michaels at In Your House 7. Catch the event now on demand.
Bullet. A year of brutal matches
was too much for the big man.
Too much for the big man's shoulders as he continually reached those shoulders into his pockets and came out empty from the amount of money that was paid him.
That's just a small taste, a sampling, if you will, of what we have waiting for you. With 4 levels to choose from. 4. See for yourself why ad-free shows is the best value in wrestling today. Sign up now, right now, at adfreeshows.com. Get it.
Hey, it's Conrad Thomson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, Connie. You know, it's being the voice of wrestling kind of like being the skinniest kid at fat camp.
Maybe a little. Maybe a little.
Maybe a little.
Yeah.
It's like that movie. What was that great movie? That movie I love, like Hollywood Nights. Newbomb Turk was Robert Wolf's character.
Okay.
And he was in the back seat making out with Fran Drescher.
Oh, there you go.
I love this movie. And they're humping around and trying to get started. And she said, "Turk, did you come?" And he said, with a little pause, "A little." So I've had those nights.
A little. My goodness. You know, I've never actually seen that, but you've mentioned it a few times now. Michelle Pfeiffer, Tony Danza, as you said, Fran Drescher. It's an all-star cast. I got to check that out.
It is it's a sleeper. It really is. So if you like comedies and mindless entertainment.
Yes.
So if you're watching this show,
you definitely like mindless entertainment.
Mindless entertainment and pro wrestling in general, I suppose. But it's a hell of I strongly suggest it's fun. You'll laugh. Chicks can watch it. Kids can watch it. But it might be a little risque for kids. I'm not sure. It's a R-rated, but it's a great movie. I don't know how we got on that track, but nonetheless, that's what we do here. We take you where our mind is headed, for better or for worse.
Well, eventually it's headed to No Way Out 1998, a rather forgotten pay-per-view in the history of the WWF, but it's because we're sandwiched between two giants. One of the biggest Royal Rumbles of all time, 1998, which we covered last month. Of course, we saw Stone Cold Steve Austin win, and in fact, Mike Tyson saw it live. And now we're setting up WrestleMania 14. So this is sort of the lame duck pay-per-view in between.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to continue some storylines and really set up WrestleMania. But boy, along the way, our world champion took quite a spill in that casket match at the Royal Rumble 98, which we covered last month here in the archives on Grilling JR.
Yep. That's right.
But you know, the beat goes on, whether Shawn took a bad bump or not. Monday Night Raw, here we come. It's the very next night. And that night after the Rumble, where you had Mike Tyson at the show, did you know before you ever went live, this has a chance to be the biggest Monday Night Raw in history simply because we have Mike Tyson?
I didn't go that far with it because I wasn't sure, and we didn't have a lot of momentum, which I'm big on the momentum. And we didn't have a great deal of it stored in a closet ready to break out and use. But we were all very, very hopeful. The investment was significant in his fee, and he's high maintenance, and we knew that going in. I think that's why Vince kind of seemingly, maybe unofficially, assigned Shane McMahon to be the babysitter. I remember one time I was in a meeting with Vince, and Shane came in, and Mike wanted a motorcycle. And so Vince, being the old promoter that he is, didn't want anything to stand in the way of Mike's happiness and productivity. So you buy him a fucking motorcycle. And that's what they did. I never saw the motorcycle, but I don't know what kind it was. But nonetheless, I'm sure it was high dollar and, all that good stuff. But he was high maintenance. But we knew that we had a chance. We knew if the audience tuned into this as we thought they might, and the media would support it to some degree, and they did, that we'd be okay. It gave us a chance. It provided hope. And that's an important element in all of our lives. Hope.
Well, we know the execution is going to be there. Of course, Tuesday morning replays and pictures of Mike Tyson are everywhere. Every newspaper, every sports show, ESPN, whatever, you're getting the coverage everywhere about Mike Tyson being here. And of course, you couldn't have paired him any more perfectly. He is sort of the bad boy of sport. And we're going to have him, quote unquote, give the rub to Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is before Stone Cold is really a household name, but we're trying to establish that. And what better way than pairing him with Tyson? I'm curious, what was your expectation when that show started? Because not only are you going to get these guys in the ring together, but you take another step in the right direction with the Mr. McMahon character. And that often gets sort of glossed over. But Mr. McMahon's reaction to Steve Austin here, ruining it, really further cements his character in a big way, does it not?
Yeah, of course. We've said many times, and I think others have agreed with me, that, at least in my opinion, from someone that was sitting at ringside, is that Vince was the greatest heel in the Attitude Era. Everybody he affiliated with, everybody he rubbed against, if you will, improved. And that's what a great heel does. He makes all the others around him or her better. So, you notice I stuck that little her in there because 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been applicable.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, in this day and age, I'm happy to say, women get that consideration that they've long deserved. But be that as it may, that's a story for another show. He was phenomenal. I've never been a big fan, Conrad, of that pay-per-view placed between the Rumble and WrestleMania. It's just almost impossible because everybody knows what's coming. Everybody knows what's coming, and they can't have it right now. And sometimes that causes a little unrest, and I'll tune back in later or whatever. But I'm not a big fan of that event because it's hard to maintain that momentum and build momentum going into WrestleMania. So that's just my take on that event. This event we're talking about today in general, it's challenging. It's really challenging booking. You use the same components that have gotten over, like Austin, but how do you use him? How do you promote him at WrestleMania, he and Shawn, when we had so much uncertainty about Shawn's condition?
We got to at least talk about this because your old pal Mark Ratner is actually quoted in some of the fallout from this, because as a reminder, in 1997, and we're in early 1998 here, but in 1997, that's when Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield. He's going to become suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. And in combat sports, a lot of the athletic commissions follow each other. So if Nevada says, hey, you can't fight here, then other states will retroactively suspend you as well. Like, hey, you got to clean up whatever's going on over there before you can compete here.
Right. Yeah.
And so now there is some debate. Wait a minute. For Austin to be mixing it up with Tyson, does that mean that Tyson's going to wrestle? And if they do, is he eligible to do that? I don't think that was ever discussed, or certainly not seriously discussed. Do you remember you guys ever even making that pitch? What if Tyson worked the match?
I think excuse me, Connor, I think the idea is, the bottom line is that we never considered Mike to wrestle.
Okay.
You're not going to put an untrained brute in the ring with a guy that you're counting on to lead the company who has a bad neck. You're just not going to do it. It's a risk reward scenario that's out of proportion. So Mike was never considered, at least to my knowledge. Now, look, in some meeting somewhere through the process, was it ever mentioned? I'm sure it was. Why wouldn't it be?
Right.
But I think the bottom line was that we wanted Mike to bring a light to this Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania at 14 and move on from there. So that was the deal. Let's get to WrestleMania 14 was always the goal. And Tyson was just going to be a good conduit to utilize at strategic times in the build, and he did a hell of a job.
No doubt. I mean, you want to talk about getting attention. This is going to be the biggest spotlight the company's had in a long, long time. And there's lots of rumors in the newsletters that at the time Tyson was costing the company $4 million. Do you remember what Tyson actually cost the company? Because certainly,
not specifically, I don't. But that number's not abnormal for that role.
Okay.
So I mean, it could have been. I know it was 7 figures plus,
right?
Easily. But how much more than the 7 figures was it? I'm not sure. But $4 million is not unreasonable for that role and what he was going to, and the pay-per-views he was going to sell. We got to remember that, you know, Tyson had a amazing history of selling pay-per-view.
Right.
And I think when you have a boxer like Tyson involved in the promotion, you almost think angle alert. What's he going to do? Now, we delivered a little bit of that because he punched Shawn.
Right.
And that was that was our trade-off for having a match. You don't want to have a match with Mike Tyson. Any fan that gives a shit about Stone Cold or the sanctity of the main event at WrestleMania is not going to want Tyson in a match. Just not. Why? We got a huge pop out of his physicality, and it was controlled, and it was easy to pull off. And it worked.
Meltzer's going to say if that number is accurate, that the company needs to cover a $4 million payday for Tyson, then they're going to need 648,000 buys out of WrestleMania in order to make out financially. Well, if you're curious, they did it. They did 730,000 buys. So no matter what the risk is, it feels like it's paying off here. And also in Raw, we see some other things like Paul Bearer confirming that the plan all along was to screw The Undertaker with Kane, and the Quebecers are going to return to the company and defeat Cactus and Chainsaw Charlie. Jeff Jarrett's still trying to hang on to whatever he can of this NWA North American title and angle. And all of this sort of gets forgotten in this era, but with Bret Hart out of the company, did you think you needed the Quebecers for Jock's stronghold in some of those Canadian markets, or was there something else at play here?
No, they were both good talents and good workers. And we didn't have an abundance of good tag teams. So I think it was more of a tag team thing than a Canadian thing.
I got you.
Yeah.
They do a spot with The Undertaker here on TV where it looks like he's descending from the ceiling. It's actually Shawn Michaels dressed up as him. And then he does an interview saying he doesn't lay down for anyone. He's going to start roasting weenies and salamis. And there's lots of, penis references. I think Triple H was wearing a Suck the Cook apron. Shawn Michaels is going to use some of the weenies and act like he's masturbating them. How big of a talent relations issue was Shawn Michaels in this era?
Well, Shawn Michaels had Vince's ear. So Shawn had a free ticket to do pretty much anything he wanted because he was such a good salesman for his own stuff that he could convince you that this is a good idea. But if anybody else in the roster had come to us with something along those same lines, it would never have made television. Shawn was a special case in that regard. And Vince let him roll with his instincts probably as much as anybody that we know we could talk about.
This episode might be the very definition of the Attitude Era. Again, you got Mike Tyson, you got this weenie, salami, whatever silliness with DX, and boy, fans can't get enough of it, man. The show draws its largest rating since the Monday Night War began. It did a 4.0 rating that comes from a 3.78 first hour and a 4.23 second hour. And of course they just crush it with the final 15 minutes with Mike Tyson and Stone Cold. That does a 4.7 rating. Ultimately, even though it's a record for you guys, you still don't beat Nitro. Nitro did a 4.44. Is this mixed emotions when you have your biggest rating since the Monday Night Wars began, but it's still not enough?
It depends on what you want to focus on, Conrad. My preference would be to focus on the increase in the rating that we earned.
Yes.
That's what we could control.
Yes.
And, I learned a long time ago, because I was bad about this in my various roles in wrestling, that you can't get too overwhelmed about things you can't control. And, you don't know what's going to get over sometimes. But I think, it was edgy as hell. We're taking a risk. It was a gamble creatively from Vince. Without a doubt. It was a big time gamble.
I just love hearing your perspective, because you were there for all the highs and lows, and hearing you say not to get too consumed by it is probably really, really good advice. And you probably had some good advice when you guys taped Raw the very next night in Davis, California. There was a dark match with a couple of guys who are going to get a cup of coffee in the big time here. Vic Grimes and Aaron O'Grady. Of course, Aaron O'Grady, we know, is going to go on to become Crash Holly. Vic Grimes, we would see involved in a few different iterations of the WWE and ECW, including that brutal moment in time with New Jack. What was your advice in this era to guys who were trying to come in, work a dark match? It's essentially a tryout and show off what they could do. I ask because this match is going to be one that gets a lot of attention and a lot of buzz, and it becomes almost one of internet lore, because the guys are going to go do a bunch of high spots and big moves, which is not typical for a WWE tryout match. It feels like they would tell you to go the other way with it, but these guys did something that nobody had seen before, and it got a lot of chatter online back when that was becoming a thing. Did you have a word of advice for anybody on a tryout? Now here's what Vince is looking for, sort of thing.
Stay clean and don't break the rules.
Okay.
Come to work on time. Be prepared to give your best effort every time that red light's on. And, but don't shoot yourself in the foot. Look, both those guys' reputation had some drug influence. And so when you know that might be an issue, you hope it's not, you hope they're past that. It might be, but it might be an issue. It has to be addressed. So I addressed that. That was, to me, was the biggest thing about those two guys, is that they're going to fall. They're going to go to their knees at some point in time. It may be because of the drug issues.
Wow. When it comes to the actual mechanics of putting together a match, for a tryout match, is there, like I've heard Bruce before say, I used to hate when guys would send me tapes and it was nothing but high spots. I don't care that you know how to do the moves. I care that you know how to make me feel. I would rather see you lose than you win. I want to see a full match, not just highlights. Can you tell a story? That sort of thing.
Right.
What was there a WWE directive like that for just tryout match of what to do or what not to do?
I don't think officially, no.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it could have been more refined and quite honestly, but it wasn't. We're still, we're growing. We're fighting to get back in the game.
Yes. And
it's all about television ratings.
Yes.
So if it didn't fall into that umbrella, then it may not get noticed.
Let's talk about this taping here. We're going to see the Outlaws beat Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack in a big brawl here. And after the match, Funk is going to bury Road Dogg under some chairs and moonsault on top of him. This is the era where, of course, we used to call Terry Funk middle-aged and crazy. He's doing moonsaults at quote unquote his age. This has often been regarded as something that young performers do. You don't usually see guys Terry's age doing it. What was your reaction to a guy you've known your whole wrestling life climbing up and doing moonsaults here?
You want to say, Terry, really? You think it's really, really necessary? Because you're not going to make us any money if you're hurt.
Right.
And you're more prone to get hurt doing moves like this at your age than not. So I was not a big fan of it. Now, it was a great spot. You got oohs and ahs and noise in the crowd. They responded. So if that's the only criteria that we judge this on, then it was successful. But if you look at the other side of the coin, the risk reward scenario, it might not have been the greatest idea that we had.
Well said. Hard to argue that. Instead of the promised Triple H versus Owen Hart match, we get Owen versus Goldust dressed up as Triple H. He's wearing a blonde wig and a large fake nose. Luna is going to be dressed up as China, and the crowd sort of feels like they've been ripped off. The match ends when Owen uses the sharpshooter, but DX gets on the video wall and starts making fun of him for wasting his time wrestling a copy. And then Slaughter tells DX the joke was on them because since Triple H was supposed to be in the match and he wasn't, that makes Owen the new European champion. So Owen wins the belt here from Triple H without ever actually wrestling Triple H. I have mixed emotions about this. As a storytelling device, I kind of like that. I think that's cool. But man, the old school says, wait a minute now, we can't be switching titles like this. What'd you think?
No, I didn't like it. It would have meant more to the title for it to have been changed in competition than it was in the manner in which it happened.
Right.
It just fell flat to me. And I understand the reasoning. I get it. So I don't need to be, well, JR was on his show and you can tell he's lost touch. I haven't lost touch. If we think wrestling is that complicated, then maybe we need to reevaluate. It's a very simple, straightforward business that needs certain things to be in place for it to work. And I think certain things like winning championships in the ring, on a wrestling hold or a wrestling maneuver or whatever it may be, no matter how you get to the finish, is what the story is about. And so, you know, I just don't think I'm trying to find value in what we did.
Right.
Like I'm being challenged about that. I don't think there was any value.
Well, when we end this show, it ends with Stone Cold doing an interview talking about Mike Tyson, and he challenges him to show up in Houston for a fight. Now, of course, Houston is the location for our big pay-per-view that we're covering today, No Way Out 1998. So we got to, along the way, sell some pay-per-views. So we start planting the seeds. Hey, what if Mike Tyson shows up? I'm sure you guys only have him on a handful of dates, so this is probably well booked. It makes sense. The rating falls to a 3.48, which is based on a 3.5 first hour and only a 3.45 second hour. So it's a very good number, but it falls a lot from where Mike Tyson was. Over the weekend, Shawn Michaels and Big Van Vader are both going to miss the house shows. Shawn's still hurting with that back.
Get out the old eraser, Conrad. The most powerful weapon in all of pro wrestling. The eraser. Jesus.
Talk to me about Shawn and his injury here. Like, when did it become apparent? You know, he's missing house shows now the week after the Rumble. Is it apparent right away we got an issue, or was this sort of par for course with him and it was really hard to know what's real and what's not?
No, I thought we had an issue. I thought he was hurt.
Okay.
I really did. I thought he was hurt. Now, the severity of his injury, I could swear to it because I don't know.
Right.
But it was, I thought he was injured, and all I wanted to, I personally had one goal: get the match in the ring and let them go do their thing. And let's get out of, where were we? That Philadelphia or Boston? Or whatever, WrestleMania was.
Oh, yeah, Boston was WrestleMania, yeah.
Okay, so let's get out of Boston with a win.
Yeah.
And because we can control that. Other than that, we're fishing.
Yeah.
And just hoping that Shawn would be able to get through it. And look, Austin wasn't exactly a triathlete. He'd been banged up and hurt. So you got two guys there that you got to be aware of their physical status. And that was a story. Let's get to Boston and let's leave with a win.
Let's talk about the win you're trying to get with Dan Severn. Meltzer would write that he's coming in as the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and he'll probably be debuting in mid-February and probably be managed by Jim Cornette. Of course, this is the middle of that NWA resurgence angle here in 1998. But Meltzer would say, my only feeling is the only shot Dan Severn has to get over is to be like Bill Goldberg and just destroy everyone with intense power moves. But there's no guarantee even that will work because Dan doesn't have that kind of look. Quote, but unlike Shamrock, who they didn't start off correctly, but he had enough charisma and was a good enough worker to overcome it and is now near the top of the ladder. If they make the same mistakes with Dan, he won't be overcome as well. Buddy, that's pretty spot on. You know, I couldn't imagine him as a Goldberg character, but it does feel like once he gets up and going, it never really becomes what we hoped. Why do you think that is?
Charisma, lack thereof. Danny's a wonderful human being, and which is one of the reasons that I was all for him coming into our company. He had character and integrity. He was a former coach. He was a highly successful amateur. He had goals. People say, what's that mean? He's a highly successful amateur. Well, it means he was on a team. He started a journey and he finished it. And finishing one's project is crucial to life success. You know, like I said before, you know, quitting's the easiest thing in the world to get good at.
Well,
and Danny's not a quitter, obviously, but I believe that he would help the morale. He was a leader. He was mature. Was he expected to come in and headline WrestleMania? No. But we thought he would be an asset to our overall roster. And to this very day, I still think that.
It makes the news that Cornette is also going to be managing a tag team. It's probably going to start after WrestleMania and maybe even manage Tiger Ali Singh. The idea here is Cornette's going to become a manager again and have a more old school approach. And I realized that this is probably something that Jimmy had been beating on beforehand in the meetings.
Oh, yeah.
We need to go back to the way things ought to be.
Well, he made a good point. Corny makes great points.
Yes.
But sometimes he has a caustic delivery that turns people away. And that was why that whole process took so damn long. Did it make sense? Cornette being a manager? Well, he's only one of the top 2 or 3 managers in the history of wrestling.
Accurate.
And we needed personality on television, and he could provide that. And some of our talents who didn't have a personality developed, a TV persona developed as of yet, could use his rub.
Right.
And so I thought there were a lot of wins, a lot of boxes checked on the wins sheet on that deal. But sometimes he was his own worst enemy. He had great ideas. I love working with him. But he certainly, at times, turned people off because of his strong personality. If you knew him, you knew what was there.
Right.
So, and I understood him. I got it. I still get it. He's still on my top of my list of managers. You know, golly, you know, he and I got to work with some great ones, man. Maybe the greatest. Heenan, Corny, Heyman. Am I leaving anybody out as far as managers are concerned?
I can't think. Those are the goats.
That's Mount Rushmore shit, man.
Yes.
So why not try it? What do we have to lose?
Well said. Well, we know that along the way, we're going to be trying a few new things, and one of the new things is house show matches being shorter. Yeah. And they want to keep the cards between 2 hours and 15 minutes and 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But they've got 10 matches booked on most cards, which is going to be...
They meaning JR booked 10 matches.
Okay.
So it's not they, pronoun guy.
What's the thinking of let's make sure the shows are 2 hours and 15 to 2.5 hours? Was there some sort of study, or is there more to it than that?
No, I think that we just decided that, you know, a lot of those shows are school nights and things like that. And some were, you know, it just made sense. We thought to have a fast paced show that would not obligate the fans to be there all night.
Right.
And we just thought that was more family friendly. You know, a nice 2-hour show, and you shoot for 2 and you get 2:15. Okay. And so that was part of the thing, just convenience for the consumer. And hopefully that was something they paid attention to. I know it got some juice. It got some, media, scrutiny. Anything there's change, you're going to get the sky's falling bullshit. So that's how I look at that deal. But no, we and the 10 matches, I agree. I booked too big a card. But here's the thing: you had to get the guys on the road to get to TV.
Yeah.
And they have to, that ticket that they get to TV on, or that ticket meaning their plane ticket, oftentimes tied into the origin of the ticket, which would include television Monday and or Tuesday. So if we didn't have a house show on Monday, so it was seemed like a necessary evil. Yeah, you want to get the guys on the road. You want that plane ticket to be absorbed over 3 or 4 towns, and they needed ring time. Now, contrary to that, well, how can you get a ring time when you got 10 matches and you want to do it in 2 hours? Good question.
Right.
But you can't have everything. And we're trying to be all things. This decision affected multiple entities within the company. So, and I never heard a talent complaining about it. They might have. Generally, when there's change, you have a vocal minority that always complaining because they lost their ride or whatever.
Right.
Bullshit. Go to work. Don't overthink it. Just go to work. God damn. Call it a day. Do your best work.
Yeah. Well, Shawn is not going to be able to do his best work. He's actually going to complain as the week goes on after our live Raw and our Raw taping that his back is stiffening up. So he'll miss those house shows as we laid out. That's over the weekend of the Super Bowl. And his doctor is going to let the WWF know that our man, our champ, he's suffering from a lot of ailments. A bruised kidney, a slightly separated shoulder, both hips are out of alignment. He's got a sprained foot. There's a vertebrae in his back out of alignment. And of course, he's still got those chronic knee problems. When this comes across your desk, we got essentially a doctor's note from Shawn's doctor.
Yeah.
Do you just think, I'm just going to let the chairman take care of this?
Well, obviously the chairman's going to have to take care of it because the chairman was the conduit between the WWE and Shawn Michaels.
Right.
Vince is the link. And I know there's a missing link there, Joe, but I'm not going there. I don't know, Connie. You have to prepare for the worst. What are we going to do if
he can't go?
He can't go. And I don't know that we had a concrete plan because everybody wanted to remain optimistic that he would fulfill that obligation and pass the title to Austin. And at least that was the hope. That was the hope. And the nice thing about it too is that Shawn had great respect for Austin. And they're Texas boys. They're up and coming stars within the pro wrestling world. There's a little bit of camaraderie in that respect. They're both territory guys. They started out very humbly. You've always heard the stories about Austin having nothing to eat but potatoes.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I was hopeful. That's all you can do, because that was our livelihood at that point. That was it. That match determined the success or failure of the biggest event of the year.
Well, we're going to talk about it as we just beat up everything from 1998. But this doctor's note comes in, and I'm curious: is there a backup plan?
Didn't know it. If there was one, I mean, I'm sure we discussed something, but you had to have a cutoff date for creative. You had to shoot an angle somehow or another and get it on television. leading into WrestleMania to make it make any sense. If you're going to go to Plan B, we didn't consider Plan Bs much because it was just a matter that everybody, as problematic as Shawn could be, we knew that when the chips were down and the lights were bright, he would deliver.
Right.
And he was in a match with Steve, and Steve and Shawn knew Steve wasn't going to hurt him. So it was a safety factor in that regard too. So the respect that Austin and Shawn had mutually was very prevalent, and it was good that it happened. It was good that it was that way. So, but I think that we just kept believing we're going to get this done, and it was a tense day at WrestleMania when we did that, because everybody knew that what was at stake. Shawn was there, and he was dressed, but until the match wouldn't ring, he never really knew if it was going to go down as scheduled.
Well, it's crazy to think that you're trying to run a business here and it's doing strong business, but all of your top talent is dropping like flies. Shawn's now hurt and off the house shows. Undertaker is off TV. We just burned him up in a fire, at least in storyline at the Royal Rumble. And now Austin's not working nearly as many house shows because he's hurt, but it doesn't matter when it comes to, the live events. The company's so hot that it sells out 4 of its 5 weekend dates. Meltzer would write, coming off the Survivor Series match, the Michaels versus Owen Hart advance for 221 in Toronto had already sold $187,000 worth of tickets, and the 227 Vancouver advance had already broken the all-time gate record with over 10,000 tickets out, $219,000 at the gate. Man, shows are selling like crazy.
Yeah. Good. Conrad, it might have something to do with the booking.
Yeah. You got great momentum here, man. And it's crazy to think just a handful of months prior, that didn't seem to be there, but now here it is. Speaking of here it is, we got Terry Funk back trying to build up this Terry Funk Cactus Jack match, which is amazing how quickly Chainsaw Charlie actually disappears. Once upon a time, we weren't necessarily acknowledging that was him. And then on TV, we see you, Terry, and Cactus in the stands all talking. And it feels like it's, maybe one of the long forgotten vignettes that I don't think we really talk about enough. Tell me about this piece of business, just the 3 of you guys talking about wrestling in the stands.
Well, how could it be bad?
Yeah.
That's my thought, and it's when it was written down on paper that, hey, JR, you're going to do an interview today with Terry and Cactus. My thoughts are, I got a net because I got 2 of the greatest talkers in the history of wrestling on either side of me, so to speak. So I thought, well, how can this be bad? It's going to be a good deal. I didn't know how good it's going to be, but based on my track record especially with Mick, we had some success in vignettes.
Yeah.
And good chemistry. We thought alike. We had we traveled that same road to get to where we were on that date, that destination, in other words. So I thought, hell, this is going to be a hit. I can't wait to do it.
We're going to see quite a match here with Terry Funk and Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack is going to put Terry in the dumpster, come flying off of the Titantron with the big elbow, packing peanuts, fly everywhere. And about that time, of course, is where things start to pick up. The New Age Outlaws tie the dumpster shut and then throw it off the stage, and it goes crashing through some tables. Meltzer would say, although it was a very carefully planned stunt, as the arena floor was set up for the landing and the dumpster was noticeably filled with styrofoam and puffy trash bags, Jim Ross and the promotion did an incredible job of selling it as something that wasn't scripted to happen and something very serious. At the time, it's probably one of the best angles we could see on TV. It takes about 30 minutes of TV time. Sonny's out front crying on camera about these guys. They're going to show the Outlaws apologizing to a furious Vince McMahon backstage. Meanwhile, they're taking the guys out in ambulances. And Meltzer would say, Ross used insider terminology like going into business for yourself, talking about the Outlaws getting a push and using their TV time to get over, and instead constantly talking about how far the envelope has been pushed in a desire to get ratings. The Outlaws looked apologetic until Michaels and Triple H told them they had to forget about it and do whatever it takes to draw ratings and get themselves over, and everyone else be damned. So maybe a little inside, quote unquote, worked shoot, whatever we want to call it here. We're trying to use all these cute terms on TV and convince people, okay, now that was part of the show, but now this was real. As a fan watching at the time, the way you sold the injury and Sonny crying, it felt great to me. It felt like an awesome angle. What did you think of this, where we're sort of blurring the lines?
That's before I got out of touch with the audience, Conrad.
Listen to you.
Listen to me. Poor me. Poor me. It was executed perfectly by all involved. You know, the stunt was well produced and safety was in place as best you could. I'm not saying it's going to be a layup,
right?
But safety was an issue and it was addressed. I thought, you know, again, I go back to my original thought about when I was going to sit down and do the interview with those cats. How can it be bad?
That's right. How
can we screw this up? And we didn't, and it delivered, and the angle delivered. So, and I felt good from Terry not because he took a rough ride in a dumpster, but because he got to be involved in a major angle.
Yes.
On national television. He reinvented himself again. And I thought, for me, as a fan of Terry Funk, personally and professionally, that he was, it felt good. I know that's weird to say it felt good because I didn't ride in the dumpster. It has nothing to do with the physical pain or the whatever. It's mental.
Right.
This guy's one of the greatest of all time, and the wrestling gods have graced him with another angle. And I love that.
I love that too. After about 20 minutes, we start to wrap up the angle. We've got Michael Cole going to the hospital to try to give us some updates. And then we would see Owen Hart take on Billy Gunn in a European title match that ends with a DQ when Road Dogg interferes. And then Hunter, Shawn, and Chyna are going to join the Outlaws. And they go to throw Owen off the stage and are stopped by agents. And finally, after plugging a Stone Cold match the entire show, they had only 39 seconds with Stone Cold versus Road Dogg before everybody runs in for the DQ. And then Funk and Cactus Jack, who had just teased moments earlier as being comatose, do a run in with Funk wearing a hospital robe and his grungy underwear. And then, of course, Cactus Jack is doing a run in while he's still hooked up to an IV. This is
silly and bad.
Yes, we had it, and then we fumbled it.
Yeah. Trying to put 8 pounds of shit in a 4-pound bag.
Yes.
Overbooked. Any of those elements taken on their own credence and credibility, presentation, time to soak in would probably be okay. But to combine them all together and the run in from the hospital and the IV and all this silly shit, it was hard to call because it was so unbelievable.
Let me ask.
Sometimes those are the ones that you're best off just laying out and letting the audience react and make the noise for you.
It's been something that Vince Russo has taken umbrage with when people would say, yeah, Russo was a great writer, but he had Vince as a filter. Vince was the filter, blah, blah, blah. Well, if that's true, why wasn't McMahon a filter in this creative of we do this serious angle, everybody's buying it. Now let's go show them it was all just silly tongue in cheek shit. And where was the quote unquote filter here?
He didn't want to say no to the talent.
Right.
He was trying to be talent friendly, believe it or not. And, I'm sure that was his goal, especially when you get Hunter involved and Shawn involved. And then you get that sentimental value of Terry Funk and all those things. I just think he didn't want to say no.
Well, he didn't.
And it was unfortunate. It was a wrong decision.
Yes.
I'm not defending his decision.
Right.
That we should have done it. And I'm trying to say that there are certain elements or segments of that angle that got all put together, squeezed together, that, would probably have worked on their own merit. But to have everything piled back in with hardly no time to get it done and all that stuff, it was hot shotting at its best. And I didn't think it worked. I thought it was too much. We didn't get a chance to sell it.
Right.
Let it breathe. Let the audience process it. What I say all the time about those stand-up comedians being wrestlers. You got to let people laugh at your jokes. If you're a comedian, you don't start another joke until the laughter is over from the previous joke. I mean, it's just common sense.
Right.
So that's a simple way of looking at it, but I believe it's half-ass accurate.
I think it's totally ass accurate. They're going to do a WrestleMania press conference here on February 5th. And Vince McMahon, of course, is going to start the press conference. This is all happening at the All-Star Cafe in Manhattan. And this is where they announced that Mike Tyson is going to be the outside the ring enforcer, a second referee of sorts, just like they had for that very first WrestleMania with Muhammad Ali in that position. This press conference is hugely attended. You got more than 100 reporters here. There's 27 cameras at least, all lined up there. Everybody is looking for some big moment that they can capture with Mike Tyson.
Yeah, an angle alert. Hey, that being in that room that day was really cool because it was dressed like big time.
Yes.
It's no different than a Tyson fight. Or using that as an analogy where the media would turn out in droves and droves, hopefully get a soundbite from Mike. But I was noticing that picture that Abdullah the Butcher put up there. Look, Austin's wearing his gimmick. He's wearing his T-shirt.
Yeah, he is. Got to sell some
I
T-shirts.
said he had a 3-month period, a quarter of the year, where he made $1 million on shirts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's sick.
He did okay.
He did all right. And he, unlike so many of his peers, he saved his money.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a success story from the word go. From growing up eating those damn potatoes, like there's an apple, to where he is now, comfortable life, happy, healthy. He can, we can see Stone Cold a lot more if he wanted to work.
Oh, for sure.
But he's got his life.
Yeah.
He's worked his entire 50 plus years to perfect and to mold to what he wants. And so I'm a big fan of his. Obviously, I'm kind of sick about it. I'm too much of a fanboy sometimes, but hey, we all got to have our friends and our heroes, and he's one of mine.
Were you surprised he's not doing anything at WrestleMania this year?
Well, I think there's still time.
Okay.
For Steve to do something at WrestleMania because the role he would be in would not be in a match.
Right. I guess that's what I meant. There were rumors that he was offered a match against Roman, and then another rumor he was offered a match against Lesnar. We're not going to see Steve in a match.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'd say no. And if he asked me, I'd say no. What do you got to gain?
Right.
He hadn't wrestled. You had that Kevin Owens thing last year at WrestleMania, which I thought was excellent.
Looked pretty good.
Yeah, it looked good. But they wrestled Steve's match, and he did what he could do. You always go into a TV match, kids. Don't try any new moves on television, ever. Just don't do it. Only go on television with the material that you know that you're good at executing, and it lessens the margin for error and flub ups, blotches, whatever you don't want. So anyway, where were we, Conrad?
Well, here's where we are, Jim. We're talking about this press conference with Mike Tyson in Manhattan. And this is interesting because while the media is here because they want to cover what Tyson's next move is going to be, it's also Tyson's first appearance since the news of his rather public split with Don King has become mainstream news. Allegedly, Don King has potentially, as the story goes, taking advantage of poor Mike Tyson. I say poor Mike Tyson because he took all of Mike's money and now Mike has a $7 million tax bill to pay. And this is going to be headline news, of course, considering he's the greatest prize fighter of this generation and made just probably well over $100 million by that point. And now he's at your event. Hey man, however we get this attention, we got a lot of it.
Yeah. I just looked at Mike as a cult personality, hero, villain, but he had awareness. He had front of mind awareness. When you thought of Mike Tyson, you came up with a very immediate and visceral image of that character. And it just so happened that his role at WrestleMania was going to fit right into your perception of who Mike Tyson is. He could get out of control. He's a brawler. He's a fighter. He's a one-punch knockout guy, all that stuff. So you let your mind play with all that information and you book your own scenario leading into WrestleMania. But I thought it fit pretty damn good.
Meltzer would comment that he felt like for most wrestling fans, Tyson being quote unquote just an outside the ring enforcer would probably be a letdown. Would you agree with that?
No.
Okay.
I would not. What other role are you going to have him in that he can execute, Conrad?
Right.
You know, you're a brilliant mind, one I respect. What would you do with him?
Right. Well,
do you have an idea? Do you have an idea?
I mean, listen, I know it's not going to be a tag match. It's a world title match, but you would see on the other side, on the other channel, they're going to involve guys like Jay Leno and Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman, but they'll always camouflage them, put them in tag matches. I could see how a Mike Tyson match in a tag could have worked. But listen, this is a separate issue at this point.
Yeah.
It's a title match. So you can't have a tag match for a title. I mean, I guess you could, but that's probably not what we want.
No, it isn't, obviously. So what I'm saying is that we're limited in foresight or hindsight on what you're going to do if that match between Tyson or the Austin and Michaels thing doesn't come off. You know, once I saw Shawn in Boston, and he was dressed in his ring attire and moving around very gingerly, very cautiously. You could tell he was in a significant amount of pain, but he was dressed, and that's a good sign. So, and there were a lot of eyes on that gorilla position that day before that match. Everybody was curious, is Shawn going to walk through the curtain with the title and come back without it?
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about what's next here for the company as they get ready for WrestleMania. They announced that they're going to raise the price from $29.95 to $34.95. It's only $5 more, but you've got such a special attraction and the company is white hot. We're selling out most of our live shows. It's probably a calculated risk where you feel like we're probably going to have no problem getting the extra $5, right, Jim?
Yeah, we thought the market would bear a $5 bump.
Yeah.
And the added attraction of Mike Tyson certainly justified the price increase. At least that was the general consensus around there. That was more of a Vince and bean counter discussion. I'm sure all of us, Bruce, I'm sure included as well. I'm sure that we all had a chance to voice our opinion. My opinion was the added attraction of Mike Tyson is certainly worth a additional $5 investment. And it is WrestleMania. It's not a one match show. It's the biggest thing we do all year. So having a $5 bump didn't bother me.
No, I agree. $5 feels like something you're going to be able to sell And clearly you do. 730,000 people buy it domestically. They're also going to be in for a treat of Mark Miro versus Butterbean. That's at least mentioned here early on in the Observer as being something you guys have planned for WrestleMania 14. Speaking of plans, you reach out to the William Morris Agency and provide them with a list of quote unquote sleazy celebrities that you would like to appear on the show. And Pete Rose, we know, is confirmed, but we're really trying to lean into anybody who can get some mainstream press and maybe has a challenged reputation in the mainstream media's eyes. What'd you think of this decision? Let's just belly up with all the misfits in Hollywood.
Well, it fit the Attitude Era.
Yes,
I guess. Did. You know, it resembled what the perception was of the Attitude Era in the eyes of many. So, what the hell? I mean, you can't be half pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. You're in or you're not. So I think if I was thinking about how Vince would approach it, it would be just like that. We're either in it or we're not. And we're going all the way in.
Let's talk about the next show that we're going to run here. February 6th in St. Louis at the Kiel Center. We've got 20,138 fans. That's 18,877 paying over $275,000. It's the largest gate in the long and storied history of St. Louis wrestling. This is a big doggone deal, man. And it's worth mentioning, it's for a Monday night. This isn't a Friday night. This isn't a Saturday night. As you would say, Jim, it's a school night.
Yeah.
And you've just set an all-time St. Louis record. Is this cause for celebration?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I went to my room and smoked dope with the Briscoe brothers.
That's exactly how you celebrate, baby. It's the perfect celebration.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
Old time. We went old school. We had beer brought to the room, my room. And we sat there and told stories. And I loved every second of it. And I don't have any problem hanging my head on that. People know what my thoughts are on cannabis.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter and myself, my two daughters and myself are both investors in JR's Black Hat Farms, which is going to start. Hopefully we'll see some movement on that this year. I've made significant cash calls to help them move along the way. So I'm proud that I'm able to do that. And it's fun to be able to help your kids while you're still alive. You can see hopefully the twinkle in their eye that they started a project, and with a little bit of dad's help and money, they built a business. So that's kind of where I am on that deal. But in any event, the Briscos and I, that was one of my, one of my most cherished nights. Because Jack's no longer with us, and he was one of my boyhood heroes without question. And of course, Jerry became like a brother. He still is. There's no better man in pro wrestling than Jerry Briscoe.
Well said. Let's talk about what we've got here for WrestleMania and the build. There's not really a lot of interesting stuff creatively. We've got in Evansville, Jeff Jarrett and Barry Windham defeating LOD, Brian Christopher and Pantera beating Taka Michinoku and Aguilera, Rock and Farouk beating Ken Shamrock and Chains. It doesn't necessarily feel like we've got just this super loaded roster, but we have so much talent, but the creative is just sort of there, but man, they're lining up to see it. That momentum thing is real. Let's break down some of the individual matches. Steve Blackman is going to beat Recon in 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Meltzer would say both guys looked really green. Jackal came down from the ceiling, preaching with a pulpit. Delivery was good. It took all the attention away from the match, but it was just as well. And after the match, Jackal was yelling at Recon that if he didn't follow orders, he'd be back in Memphis making $40 a night and eating tuna out of a can, and slapped his face. Jackal, of course, is Don Callis. We see him pretty regularly these days on AEW. Why don't you think Don Callis made a bigger splash in the WWE?
I think he was his own worst enemy at times.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
Yeah. It could be caustic.
Okay.
It could be, attitudinal, shall we say. Don is a very, very intelligent person, and he doesn't have a lot of patience for ignorance. And so sometimes he's impatient when others don't accept and embrace his ideas. But he's a talented guy. He really is a talented guy. I believe he's a big asset in AEW.
Yeah.
Affiliating with the Elite, Kenny, Bucks, so forth. I think he's going to be very crucial going forward in their continued evolution. But here's the deal. In a nutshell, he rubbed some people the wrong way. And I'm sure if you talk to him, he'd tell you the same thing.
He rubbed Bruce the wrong way, Vince the wrong way, Talent the wrong way.
I think Vince. He might have rubbed some of the underlings the wrong way because he was generally smarter than them.
Right.
But I think it got back to Vince. Vince got tired of hearing about it, and so see you later.
Well, hey, listen, maybe your wife has been giving you a little grief and you're sick of hearing about it. And it's time to get that beard under control. Well, buddy, can we hook you up? They're once again revolutionizing men's grooming. I'm talking about Manscaped. That's right. Manscaped is in the beard game. They've got a brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make sure that your drapes match your carpet by going to manscaped.com and using the promo code JimRoss. That's where you'll get 20% off and free shipping. Guys, it's time to tame your mane. Here's the deal. Nobody likes a weird beard. So say goodbye to all your stubble trouble. Check out Manscaped's new Pro Beard Kit. The Beard Hedger is awesome. It's a cordless trimmer. It's got a rotary wheel. They got 20 different positions of precision with one guard. That's worth mentioning. You're not going to get a whole drawer full of junky add-ons. You got 20 positions with one guard. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. Avoid all that hair in the sink. The blade is, here's the reality. The blade is tough on hair, but it's smooth on your face. And the Pro Kit doesn't end there. They've got everything else you need. They got beard shampoo and conditioner. Let's remember, all of our hair is different. So you need special beard hair shampoo and conditioner. They've also got Manscaped's beard oil. That's going to be one of your main accessories. It's going to make sure your beard doesn't get brittle and dry. They've even got the beard balm, which is going to help you shape and style and moisturize and get a more sculpted look. 3 other gifts in here too: a beard brush, comb, and scissors. Everything you need. But here's what you really need: 20% off and free shipping with the code JimRoss at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the promo code JimRoss. Manscaped Beard Hedger. 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths. How about that, man? Manscaped doing stuff, not
growing.
just for your no-no anymore, now for your beard too.
Pardon me. Yeah, they're growing, and that means success.
Yes, sir.
So if you're going to be successful in today's world as discerning buyers, Manscaped's winning that race.
Yeah, they are.
I'm glad they're a sponsor for us, and they have been for a long time. Very loyal, and all of us use their products, Conrad.
Yes, we do.
So it's not like we're just bullshitting. There's not a day goes by that I don't touch one of my Manscaped products. Let's slow down here. Little trim here, little trim there, nose, ears, whatever. It's just got so many uses, and I love it. It's good stuff. So thank you, Manscaped, for sponsoring our show.
Absolutely. Manscaped.com. Use that promo code JimRoss. Jim, let's get back to it here. We're going to see Thrasher beat Goldust in 4 minutes and 28 seconds when Sable slaps Goldust, and Sable and Luna start arguing. Sable's going to slap Luna and then storm off. And the show ends with DX coming out for an interview. Austin follows, and here come the New Age Outlaws as well. And at this point, Chainsaw Charlie cut a hole in the ring. Cactus comes from underneath. Owen Hart shows up as well. You're booking a lot of craziness to go off the air here a lot of times. Do you think chaos at the end of the show was a staple of these Monday Night Wars?
Yeah, I do. You want to leave attempting to give people something to talk about.
Yes.
Either what they just saw or what is coming up. Ideally, you get a little bit of both, but that's not always easy to pull off. So I believe that you got to give them something to think about, whether it's an expression or natural sound. It's a feel thing, but you need to give them something. Them meaning pronoun boy. Oh my God. I love when Conrad talks about his beard.
My goodness.
Yeah. Conrad, your beard gets prickly, stiff, scratchy.
Not thanks to that new Manscaped package. I mean, I'm ready to go now. I got shampoo, conditioner, oil, pomades. I got everything I need.
Pomade.
Yeah, man.
I hadn't heard that term in a long time. Pomade.
I didn't either till Manscaped delivered me one. And I was like, shit, turns out I need pomade.
There you go.
Bobby Duncombe Jr., Johnny Ace, the one-man gang, and Flash Flanagan were all given tryouts in Indianapolis. Meltzer would say none looked particularly good. Duncombe showed potential since he's a good athlete, but he didn't have a good match, trying to wrestle like Stan Hansen, losing to D'Lo Brown. Ace was put over Flash Funk, and Gang, who didn't show much, put over Thrasher but beat Flanagan. Because of Ace's commitments with All Japan, the only way he could be used is to be pushed as a superstar and part-time as a major short-term angle, or just used in prelims to fill out a card. On his own, he wasn't impressive enough. This is interesting to think about the one-man gang getting a tryout here in 1998. That's not something I would have had on my bingo card.
Well, Conrad, always remember that Father Time
does no jobs.
Yes. And as much as I love George Gray, and he's embedded down there in Louisiana, I followed him on Facebook. He's on there some. Pardon me. The time had come and gone. You know, he was a large man.
Yes.
And sometimes their skill set decreases at a more rapid rate than a smaller individual, quite frankly. So just that extra weight on the joints, the hips, the knees, and so forth, the lower back. And part of his charm as a star heel, before he's made into a character babyface in WWE back in the day, was he could take bumps. He could beat a comeback. And he was very athletic for a 400-pound guy. But the time had come and gone. Simple as that. I think I don't know that Laurinaitis ever had it to get on that roster. Didn't, in my opinion. And subsequent things that have happened between he and I are what they are, not worth discussing. And Bobby Duncombe, he could fit into that same description of a one-man gang. The old pickup truck and driven on down the road. So, but out of respect for these guys and always looking, then why not give them a shot? Does it cost us a plane ticket and a hotel room? Come on in.
He was only 32 at that tryout. Bobby Duncombe Jr. was. He does get his big break, at least here in America, later this year. He's going to debut for WCW on November 16th in 1998, and he's going to be a part of the West Texas Rednecks. But just given the fact that he played football at the University of Texas, and he was, like 6'5", 6'6", like it feels like he checks a lot of your boxes. You just
it starts in your heart, Conrad.
Okay.
You got to want to play.
Okay.
And he didn't have that. I'll take responsibility. Hell, I'll do that all the time. But we weren't we didn't feel like we were able, or we couldn't flip the switch to turn on the electricity.
Right.
Looking at his metrics, he's a no-brainer.
Right.
but he just did, his motor just wasn't ready for that world at that time, in our opinion.
Do you think there was a set of circumstances where Johnny Ace could have ever been a star in American wrestling?
No.
Okay.
You want to know why?
Yes.
No charisma.
Okay.
No charisma. Watching Laurinaitis wrestle would be like eating oatmeal with nothing on it. It's just there. Good look, great smile, good teeth. But he didn't connect to the audience. How are they going to identify with him? Unless he's a heel, then that might work. Maybe. Trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and not be a total turd on our own show. So, anyway, enough of his shit.
Well, listen, we turn in to this program every week hoping that you're a total turd to somebody. So thank you for that. The Houston pay-per-view is what we're going to be talking about today. No Way Out 1998. We're on our way here. And man, we sold out more than a week in advance. 13,356 tickets are sold here. $226,000 at the gate. Another wrestling, long time city. We talked about setting an all-time record in St. Louis. Well, we're selling out in Houston too, the old Paul Bosch territory. This is a hot time for the business when No Way Out, which is essentially a lame duck pay-per-view. Like, it's not the Royal Rumble. It's not WrestleMania. It's just kind of there, and business is good, man. Are you surprised that you're selling out B shows like this?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, but we were hot, and you got to strike while the iron is hot. And Houston was a major market. And to roar in there and sell all the seats a week in advance was pretty cool.
No doubt.
It was for me because I'd spent so much time in Houston. Nothing like Bruce, because that's where he's from. But I spent a lot of time in Houston as well with Bruce, as a matter of fact. And we had a blast. It's lucky that we both lived through that era. So it was great. We ate fatty food and fried food and Mexican food, and we ate a lot and enjoyed ourselves. So two younger guys that just loved everything about pro wrestling. That was he and I. That's why we got along so well. Had a lot in common.
Well, something you also have in common is you both have empathy for people, and something bad happens on the way to this pay-per-view. A guy who used to be a part of your roster, maybe more of a bit player, but he was here, but he's since gone on to work in ECW and now WCW. The former Rad Radford, Louis Spicoli, as we knew him in WCW, passes away. One of those sad deals where he's gone way, way too young. He passes away in his 20s. The report, the rumor and innuendo at the time is that it was an accidental overdose. Maybe he had been mixing somas and things like that with alcohol. Just a bad deal, man. When you're running talent relations for the opposite team, so this doesn't happen on your watch, but we did have the Brian Pillman thing back in October. And now here we are in February, and another young guy who used to be here, similar story that we've heard before. Does this make you even more nervous about your crew out there every week?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. You keep encouraging, loading them up with positivity, and don't make any bad decisions. Don't outthink your role. Enjoy your role. Save your money. Pay your taxes. Be legit. Be a businessman. Not a kid that's got new toys.
Right.
And you don't win the race by how many Rolexes you accumulate, quite frankly. So, he was really a talented kid. Rad Radford, Louis Spicoli, talented guy, but he had the demons.
Right.
And they never detached. And eventually it cost him his life. But as far as in the ring, bell to bell, he's a hell of a little hand. Damn good hand.
Does it change your approach to the way you handle your talent? Do you call a meeting? Do you think about instituting new testing? Do you discuss any changes on your side when you see something like this happen on the other channel?
I just think that we had to be serious about our drug program. I don't know that it always happened. But we got to be serious about enforcing the guidelines of the established drug program and take it very seriously. You know, this is a great job, and these guys can have a great life, a wonderful life. They work a part-time schedule. They're not on the road every day, especially these, you know, I can't imagine anybody not wanting to come to AEW, to be honest about it, Conrad. They work a day a week.
Right. Yeah. How do you beat that?
How bad is that for it's the greatest thing in the world for a wrestler that takes a flat back bump.
Yes.
You're going to be called upon to do it maybe once a week, maybe. So it's an interesting topic, to say the least.
Let's, before we talk about our next topic, let's talk about a topic you and I both feel really strongly about. And that's our friends over at Rocket Money. They were formerly known as Truebill. Let me explain. It's a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending. It helps you lower your bills all in one place. You see, here's the reality. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. Like the streaming service you bought to just watch one show on. By the way, that was DAZN for me. Or that free trial you never even used. By the way, that was Landglide for me. I found both of those. Those are two real life apps that I had subscribed to that I was paying for every month. I had no idea. Truebill found it though. Saved me a boatload of cash. Rocket Money now owns Truebill, and it will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you, so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want. Simply find the subscription you don't want and ta-da, press cancel. Rocket Money does the rest. They'll cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as a click of a button. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, with the average person saving up to $720 a year.
Wow.
I mean, I saved a boatload of cash. My wife and I both signed up for Hulu. We didn't know that until we got Rocket Money, and now we know we're saving that cash. It feels good, man. You know what feels good? Not giving away your money, making good, smart, savvy financial decisions, being a good steward with what this money we earn by working so doggone hard. I want you to do this too. And here's the thing. You're going to find unwanted subscriptions you forgot about. You're going to see how easy it is to let Rocket Money cancel those subscriptions. And you're going to start saving money with the click of a button. Seriously, stop throwing your money away, cancel those unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/JR. That's rocketmoney.com/JR. One more time, rocketmoney.com/JR. Jim, you alluded to it earlier about Stone Cold. Oftentimes it's not how much you make, but how much you keep, right?
Damn right. It's all about that, Conrad. And this is just such a great company that's affiliated with us, rocketmoney.com. You say that, you know, you got a little JR promotion going on there, which is kind of cool. But this is an idea that's long overdue.
Yes.
The only thing I would suggest, tongue-in-cheek wise, would be when you do this process, which is painless, quick, easy, you can use your index finger or whatever finger you choose. That's optional, by the way. It says it on the packaging. No, I'm kidding. Don't let your wife see you doing it. Because what she's going to say is, aha, I knew it. And she's probably going to be right. But to avoid the embarrassment, I suggest that you, in the privacy of your own home,
yes,
that you get this handled, and you won't regret it.
No,
because you're going to find new money.
Yes,
isn't finding new money kind of the way of the world nowadays? I think so. So give it a shot, folks. I think you'll be very, very pleasantly surprised of how much money you're wasting.
rocketmoney.com/JR. All right, Jim, let's get to the show. The show, as we mentioned, is sold out. And by the way, pay-per-view buys are up. The prior year in February for the old In Your House Final Four, we did 120,000 buys. Here we're up to 150,000 buys. So 30,000 people more bought this pay-per-view.
Well, and at the increased price, Conrad?
Yes.
At $34.95.
Oh, that's for WrestleMania. I'm sorry. WrestleMania would be the first $5 extra.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Still though, the show is not universally well liked. The critics did not like the show. We're going to break it down and explain why, but overall it got 63.8% thumbs down, which is
dare them.
Yeah. The show starts off by announcing that Shawn Michaels is not going to be able to compete in the main event due to injury. How touch and go do you remember this being? I ask because we know Shawn lives in San Antonio. This show is in his home state. We are in Houston. It is a big multi-man tag match. I just assume part of you thinks, well, it's in his home state. It's a big multi-man. Let's give him as much time as we can to see if we can do it or not. And then ultimately you make the call. We got to move on. Talk me through that day.
Never was a consideration. Him wrestling in Houston.
Okay.
I know the geography very well because there's a Whataburger. That's the great thing about Texas. Those Whataburgers at the exits on the interstate.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere, baby. And they're open 24/7. And by the way, I'm an avid Whataburger consumer, as you could probably tell. So if Whataburger wants to come on this show,
that'd be fine with me and you and Dave Silva too.
And we'd all be happy.
Yes.
We'd all be happy and you would not be disappointed.
Correct.
But in any event, I don't know where I was talking about now. See, I lost
Shawn Michaels, place. But you had no doubt that he wasn't going to be there.
We weren't going to put him in a ring under any circumstance. A 30-man tag.
Yeah.
Nothing. You're not going to do anything to risk his injury and re-injuring, aggravating, taking a step back from where you're taking a step forward or whatever. It's not going to do it. Not risk it. No risk. No, absolutely not. So he was never a consideration for Houston.
Well, let me ask you this, and I mean this to not be disrespectful at all, because I have the utmost respect for those who have dedicated their life to this. However, I do wonder from a promoter standpoint, how if we know Shawn Michaels isn't going to show, the old Bruce Pritchard adage per Vince McMahon about replacements are your replacement, if you have to have one, God forbid, has to be greater than the original. You don't want to have a disappointment. And I think there's some fans who are disappointed when Shawn Michaels is replaced by Savio Vega.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. And I have great respect, appreciation for Savio Vega's a hell of a hand.
Yes.
And a good guy, by the way. A real good guy. Yeah, I'm with you, Conrad. I mean, it was a letdown. But I don't know. And the argument on the other side would be, well, how do you can't replace Shawn Michaels.
Right.
So you're swimming upstream to start with. The chances of success are fleeting. So, and that's kind of how I see that. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. But it was a letdown. Can't argue that point.
Was there any sort of Hail Mary thrown to any other talent? Or was Savio, was he always plan A, or was there a plan A that fell through and then Savio becomes plan B?
I'm trying to think back. That's a long time ago, but
yes,
I can't think of, we wanted to get a good match in the ring. Savio had some ethnic appeal
and a history with Austin.
Yeah. In that market. So, and we knew the match would be good. So I kind of checked enough boxes to get us by. But was it a letdown? Yeah. Who else is on the card that you could move around? You're just going to rob Peter to pay Paul. You're going to bust up other matches to get that one guy to wrestle Austin. And Austin was very happy and that's something you want to be aware of, keeping Austin happy. He was very happy to have the opportunity to wrestle with Savio. They had good chemistry. physical guys, both hungry. So I thought it was never going to be ideal. You can't replace that. So that's where you are. What do you do?
Meltzer would say the company's lack of talent depth was exposed once again with a poor undercard and a main event promise surprise that fizzled, which to a lot of people killed what was an entertaining match before it ever started. Of course, we know that Mike Tyson is going to be teased a lot as appearing on this pay-per-view. All those Stone Cold challenges, none of them go answered. Tyson's not here, but he is all over the show when we're running commercials for WrestleMania. In fact, one of the commercials that runs during the pay-per-view only features Mike Tyson. He's the only wrestler, or he's not even a wrestler, but you get the idea. He's a big part of this WrestleMania presentation. Let's talk about the matches that night. We start off with the Headbangers taking on the artist formerly known as Goldust and Mark Miro. They go 13 minutes and 54 seconds, which on paper, I tend to think that sounds a little long for a Headbanger Goldust Mark Miro match. What say you?
Didn't bother me, quite honestly. The match could have probably been better, but I didn't dislike it. I thought those guys are solid. They fill their role. The role of opening match on a pay-per-view has changed over the years.
Oh yeah.
So you wouldn't see that match is essentially a preliminary match. It would go on third or fourth in today's market. You'd start off the show with something more heavy duty.
Yes.
More impact, more. Somebody's going to lift that and use it on a cell phone.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. If you do, send it to us. So anyway, I wasn't disappointed with it at all. And I didn't think it went too long, but it wasn't too long yet, Conrad, but you could see too long from where you're standing.
The whole thing is really a backdrop for the Mark Miro Sable story. Sable's going to become involved. And of course we know she's one of our brightest stars. So we're trying to set that up. What did you think about the new version of Mark Miro? He's no longer trying to be Johnny B. Bad. Now he is this Golden Gloves boxer with like a leather do-rag. It's a totally different presentation for Mark Miro.
Yeah, it was. Mark kept trying to find himself. He kept looking for who he was. It was like I was watching America's Got Talent on Facebook the other day, and this little girl, which I cry almost every time I see these kids succeed, and it makes me sad that I'm aging, becoming senile. But she wrote a song called I Don't Know My Name. And Mark Miro didn't know who he was for a long time. And so I think that, he was searching. And sometimes when you search and success isn't staring you in the face, you can get a little bit detached. So we kept looking. He looked great, a wonderful citizen, never an issue in the locker room. Ideal teammate was Mark Miro. We just couldn't find anything that would click. And it takes two to tango. I get that. But nonetheless, he was searching, Conrad, and almost in a desperate state.
Well, let's talk about what's next here. We've got Taka Michinoku. He's going to be beating Pantera to win the WWF Light Heavyweight title in 10 minutes and 11 seconds. Brian Christopher will come out to do color commentary. The match gets 2 1/4 stars. It feels like we're trying to find a way to compete with what WCW has been able to present now with the cruiserweight division. And it just, I don't know, man. It doesn't feel like it's hitting for me. What say you?
Square peg, round hole type thing. I get that. I get the idea. I know why, but it's still based on who's over. And some of those guys that WCW had of the Latino event when you say you got Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio on your roster, that's all I really need to hear.
Right.
Seriously. I mean, we can't top that. And we never topped that. We just hired them. We went after them and brought them home. And here they've been all these years making millions of dollars. So it's a good thing. I think of all my accomplishments in wrestling, Conrad, the thing that I'm probably most proud of is the opportunities that I help facilitate for so many talents that have taken those opportunities, ran with the ball, scored, and then the follow through. Save your money, pay your taxes, and be happy. Simple as that. Simple as that. But I think that's my greatest accomplishment. And now I see, you know, it's just amazing how what roads you travel. And I know I'm rambling here, but that's just how that thought stuck in my head, and I wanted to share it.
Do you think Taka Michinoku was? I mean, timing is everything. If Taka came along today, I think he'd have a much different experience here. Would that be fair to say?
Probably. Yeah, probably. He's a talented little guy. He plays the role of a heel in Japan. But he's a talented son of a gun. You know, smart. I think he's got a head for booking. So, but he's a good kid. Always respectful. Always worked hard. I never ever remember him being late one time.
Wow.
So from that minuscule travesty or an issue, being late, he wasn't even late, and he could work with anybody. And which is another attaboy for him is that he did it speaking broken English.
Right.
So communication wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but he succeeded.
What do you think we could have done with this division to make it more successful? Like, we know we've got Taka Michinoku, a very capable in-ring performer. We sort of debated whether or not he could have been a bigger deal, but WCW seems like they're making a bigger splash with their cruiserweight division. Was it all based on talent, or was it based?
Yeah, talent.
Okay.
Yeah, talent. Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, talent. I mean, again, they got Eddie, they got Ray. You still want to continue this argument?
Was there a guy over there that you really wished you could have had in this era? Is there one that stood out where, man, if we had him, we could have really made a run with this light heavyweight stuff?
Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
Perfect size. The underdog. That Mighty Mouse character that Vince always wanted to have. That was one of Vince's things. I'm sure Bruce has talked about that from time to time. Vince's
obsession with Mighty Mouse. And we have talked about it, but it feels like he always wanted that in the heavyweight division. And even when he does get Ray, he doesn't try to make him a shining star in a cruiserweight or light heavyweight division. He puts him in there with the heavyweights. Did Vince not believe? Did he think that the term light heavyweight felt less than compared to heavyweight? Okay.
Without a doubt. Cruiserweight, light heavyweight, whatever. He didn't like those assignments. And so therefore we didn't use them that often. We used them, but they weren't a priority.
Well, maybe you're looking to become a light heavyweight, or maybe you're looking to move up to a heavyweight. Whatever you're looking for, Jimmy'sFamousSeafood.com can help. Jim and I have been bragging about it for a while because we really do believe it's the best seafood in the world. Anytime Jim and I are within driving distance of Baltimore, boy, we'd be easy to assassinate. We're going to be at Jimmy's Famous Seafood. We're going to be getting the best crab cakes in the world. I actually make mine on the grill here at home. Now, I know what you're thinking. How are you making crab cakes from Baltimore at home? Well, they're shipping food nationwide. And I know what you're thinking. That sounds expensive. Shipping seafood to my house, they're going to kill you on the shipping. Nuh-uh. Now with our little life hack here, use the promo code Jim Ross and you'll get free 2-day nationwide shipping when you spend $125.
You said, Conrad, did you say free?
I said free. Free. when you use the promo code Jim
I love it when you
Ross.
talk dirty, Conrad. Free
It is the
shipping,
best.
folks. Get you some.
Jim, tell us about the soups at Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Why do you like
I'm
them
a
so
soup
much?
snob, to tell you the truth. I'm probably the worst person you want to take to a restaurant because of their soup. Because if it's not good, I'll cut a promo on your ass.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I'm a soup snob. My mother made great soups. It's funny how that works, right? The
Yes.
heritage thing, and DNA and all that.
Yes.
So anyhow, Jen and I tried their soups back in the early days of our relationship with Jimmy's, and we're blown away. Best soup I ever had. What is it I like so good? Clam chowder?
Oh, they got a great chowder, yeah.
I think the clam chowder I fell in love with. Kind of had a little romantic thing going on.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's all right. So, if you know what I'm saying. Jimmy's is the best, man. Folks, this is no bullshit.
No, it is the best. I love it. You'll love it too. Jim has told us before that Jan liked to use the broiler, just crisp them up a little bit. I do it on my grill. Eric does it on his grill. Our man, Cassio Kid, he loves their oysters. My dad loves their steaks. They've got desserts, gluten-free items, something for everybody. This makes a great gift. If you got somebody in your life who's got an anniversary, man, they get to have a great meal together. Maybe it's a birthday. Maybe you forgot somebody over the holidays, whatever. Maybe it's a corporate gift. This makes a great corporate gift. You want to send something impressive?
The best.
Don't
It's
send
the
them
best corporate
fruit.
gift you can get, Conrad. The best.
Damn the fruit. Send them some crab. Okay. Go to jimmysfamousseafood.com. Use our promo code Jim Ross and you'll get that free shipping over orders over $125. We can't say enough nice things. jimmysfamousseafood.com. Use that code Jim Ross. Let's talk about the next match here. We got the Godwins beating the Quebecers in 11 minutes and 14 seconds. And Meltzer would say, this is actually going to wind up being the most famous match on the card because they're going to end up having a Supreme Court fight over it in California over whether or not forcing criminals to watch tapes over and over of this match constitutes cruel and unusual punishment. But who would have ever thought Jacques would do a plancha? Boy, wrestling's changing. Meltzer would say, after the match, the Godwins clocked both with their slop buckets. If after a performance like this, the Quebecers are still major heroes and drawing cards in Montreal, then nothing will ever kill wrestling in that city. -1/4. Bowling shoe ugly might be a term that you would have used, huh?
Yeah, it could have been passed through my mind. Hey, sometimes it's just one of those nights.
Yes.
And that was one of those nights. It's just wrong place, wrong time.
Next up, we got Bradshaw beating Jeff Jarrett in 8 minutes and 59 seconds, but it's by DQ. So Jeff is going to retain his NWA North American title. But you point out on commentary that this is pretty historic because it's the first time an NWA title has ever been defended on a WWF pay-per-view. And Lawler even gives Paul Bosch a shout out. Kind of interesting to think about an NWA title being defended on a WWE pay-per-view, even if the NWA didn't really exist. The match itself here gets half a star. Most of the match is Cornette and Jarrett working on Bradshaw's quote unquote bad knee. After a powerbomb, Bradshaw slingshots Cornette into the ring. Cornette drops his racket. He whips the two into each other, allowing Cornette to take his 1980s manager fall. And Jarrett then clocked Bradshaw with the racket for the DQ. Afterwards, Bradshaw's making his own comeback. And then here come Ricky and Robert. That's right. The Rock and Roll Express show up to take bumps for him. Finally, Barry Windham comes out. They're all cleaning house, and here comes the LOD. So it's a big schmoz. It's a big gang warfare deal. But the Rock and Roll Express on a WWE pay-per-view, man, has hell frozen over? How about that?
Pretty cool. It was paydays.
Yes.
That's the deal. They all got paid for whatever the role was. And to create some new money, we talked about that earlier here on the show.
Yes.
But talking about new money, it was a new payday for Ricky and Robert, and God knows they deserve it. So I thought that was a cool moment. I really did.
Super cool moment, and not the only cool moment we're going to get on the program, but the NWA. Boy, this is, what's the old expression? Deader than Kelsey's nuts.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Does Vince know right away? Nothing to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
But look, we tried something new.
Yes, you have to.
Trying something new, and who knew how it was going to pan out.
Next up, we've got Ken Shamrock and Ahmed Johnson and Chains and Skull and 8 Ball. They're all in a big tag team here to take on Farouk, Rocky Maivia, Mark Henry, D'Lo Brown, and Kama Mustafa. Meltzer would say it was a fast-paced, all-action match that was somewhat unwildly in spots. Maivia showed a near superstar-level performance, and Shamrock's work is improving as well. Actually, neither Henry or Johnson, who figured to stink up the match, looked all that bad. Although they were only kept in the match in small increments, Brown looked good as well, and Skull and 8 Ball looked bad. Finally, it turned into a 10-way, and Shamrock used a belly-to-belly, a Fujiwara armbar, and switching to an ankle lock to make Maivia tap out. That sets up the Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania. Rocky's going to blame Farouk for the loss and actually slap him. Farouk gets mad and instinctively punches Brown, so everyone is at each other's throats. Maivia walks off on his own first, and then Farouk orders everyone back in the ring, and they do the salute. 2 1/4 stars. So we got a few things going on here. We're trying to show there's some dissension in the ranks amongst the Nation of Domination. There's a problem between Rocky and Farouk, but at the same time, we're setting up the Intercontinental title match with Maivia and Ken Shamrock. This match served its purpose pretty well here, does it not?
I thought so. Yeah, it was a facilitator type match.
Yes.
To establish some new stories, to try to begin to bring a close to another story, i.e. the Nation. So, I thought it worked out pretty well. Remember the object of this whole process. One guy.
Yes.
The Rock. That's the guy we're going to hang our star on. And he was going to be expected to take it to new galaxies. Young, big, athletic, amazing charisma, just amazing. So, hey, did you see the guy they cast to be JR on the Young Rock?
I saw the guy they had in there for the Nation of Domination.
And I've lost a lot of weight. I look better now, I think. One time I need to slap myself and eat a celery stick.
Well, they, I screen grabbed that shot and posted it, and I said, they did my man dirty here. And our old pal Brian, who works with The Rock, of course, on that show, said, hey, Conrad, we didn't actually do a proper casting call for Jim Ross. When we do, he's going to make Oklahoma proud or something like that. So this guy just happened to be at the building and was just there. And we're like, hey, we could slap him in an outfit and call him JR. So maybe one of these days we're getting a real Jim Ross on that show.
It didn't bother me. I just appreciate being thought of. So that's cool. But anyways, it's funny what other people's impression of one is.
Yes.
So in any event, that's what it was.
Next up, we got Kane and Vader. They're going to go 11 minutes.
I was going to say, Conrad, put a bow in this last topic.
Yes.
It was all about The Rock.
Yes.
The long arcing story was about Dwayne Johnson. And that's where we knew we were going. That was our destination. It's where we were. Our GPS had him circled, and we were traveling to him as we speak. So that's all that was. Everything is about The Rock. And I think that was the way to go.
We get Kane and Vader together here. They go nearly 11 minutes, and Meltzer would say Vader did about as good of a job as you could under the circumstances. Mankind was a better match, but that's because Mankind's style is more conducive to working with a monster, since Vader can't and shouldn't take those kind of bumps for his character. Mainly a brawl here, and there were enough twists to keep it entertaining, although it never had much heat. Here's the thing. There's a finish here where Vader delivers a power bomb, but Kane sits up, eventually uses a chokeslam and a tombstone. Vader noticeably tried to jump so high it looked like he's trying to dunk a basketball and going up for the slam, but at least Kane had him under control the whole way, and there was no danger in the move. And after the match, Kane went under the ring and took a giant wrench and clocked Vader with it. This is an angle set up for Vader actually being out of action due to needing eye surgery. As a plate, he had to protect his eye stemming from the injuries in that famous Stan Hansen match as jarred loose. Vader gets carried out of the ring to sell the angle. Star in 3/4. What'd you think of this match and the post-match where we're involving a wrench?
Well, I must have liked it better than Meltzer because I thought it was better than Star and 1/4, where it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit better than that, quite frankly. Two giant men, manhandling each other. It ain't easy. The things that you're expected to be able to do in a pro wrestling match was not thought of where you got 300-pounder versus 400-pounder. So some of the things that we're used to seeing, it wasn't designed to be that way because of the size of these guys and how hard they are to handle, control, protect, most importantly.
Do you think Vince had given up on Vader by this point?
Oh, good question. I don't know. You never give up on a monster heel if you can get him healthy and get that. Putting Vader with Cornette was really, really good, I thought. Worked for me. Made sense. Logical. So Vader needed that mouthpiece. And when you get a good mouthpiece, you can leave the talent at home, let them rest, and have the mouthpiece on TV to speak their case and represent. So I don't know that he'd given up on him. I don't know how unless a guy is proven that he cannot stay healthy, you never give up on a guy with Vader's size, super heavyweight, athletic, but he's got to be healthy. Right. That's the key to the whole thing. Is Vader healthy?
Well, if you're worried about staying healthy, let me give you a pro tip. Athletic Greens can hook you up. I've been using AG1 since the start of the pandemic. My wife did all of her research and said, this is what we need to optimize our immune system. And she knew if I was going to do it, it needed to actually taste good. And boy, this checked all the boxes. Let me explain. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens, everything you need to start your day right. This special blend of ingredients is going to support your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your focus, your recovery, your aging, all of the things. And I got to tell you, we look at it as like our all-in-one nutritional insurance. It's less than $3 a day, and it's lifestyle friendly. Whether you're trying to do keto or paleo or vegan or dairy-free or gluten-free, no matter what you're looking for, it's not free of taste. It tastes great. And they managed somehow to do that with less than 1 gram of sugar. No GMOs, no nasty chemicals, no artificial anything. But it supports everything you need, including sleep quality and recovery, mental clarity and alertness. And listen, guys, we've been bragging about it for a while, and I encourage you to do this every time. I mean it sincerely. If you're on the fence about Athletic Greens, go check out their reviews. What you'll find is more than 7,000 5-star reviews. And right now, JR and I think it's time you reclaim your health. Arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water, y'all. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit athleticgreens.com/JR. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/JR to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Jim, it's the real deal, AG1, is it not?
Absolutely. Oh, God, yes. And it's so simple to execute. It doesn't complicate your day. A little water, like I'm drinking my Fiji water. Conrad, I'm a big fan of Fiji water.
Are you really?
It's the only water in my refrigerator.
It mixes.
I drink a lot of water.
And it mixes great with Athletic Greens. Check it out for yourself. Throw a little AG1 in your water tomorrow morning. Go to athleticgreens.com/JR.
Couldn't be easier. And folks, guess what? It works.
Yes, it does. let's get to our main event. We're finally here. We've got Stone Cold Steve Austin teaming with Chainsaw Charlie, who we know as Terry Funk, teaming with Cactus Jack, teaming with Owen Hart. What a team that is. Of course, Owen is hell-bent on getting revenge over what happened with the Montreal Screwjob, defending his family's honor. He just stole that European title, essentially, from DX. And, of course, Mankind, Cactus Jack as we know him now, and Chainsaw Charlie just pushed off of the ramp in the dumpster. They're looking for revenge over the New Age Outlaws. And Stone Cold Steve Austin has his sights set on the world champion, Shawn Michaels. But Shawn is out. So on the other side, it's Hunter Hearst Helmsley with Chyna by his side, the New Age Outlaws, who are now the tag team champions. But we know Shawn's not here, so who will it be? Is it going to be a debuting superstar from WCW? Is it going to be someone who's been out with injury? Is it going to be someone who might be the next member of DX? It's Savio Vega, who Austin had a feud with back in 1996. The crowd is going to boo heavily. And Meltzer would say not booing as good heat, but more like groaning as they reveal the mystery partner. And again, this has been built up as being a big mystery. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And it's Savio Vega.
Yeah.
It
let people down. It was a great booking.
Right.
In hindsight. In hindsight's 2020. It wasn't great. It was a letdown, unfortunately. And as I said here on the show, even today, I'm a big fan of Savio Vega's work and the man that he is. He was great on our talent roster. Never a problem. Always professional. And so he was the wrong guy.
Right.
Because you're replacing what you perceive to be Shawn Michaels. So good luck with that. We were screwed in that regard. The replacement component of this main event,
yes,
was not intact. It wasn't working.
One of the things I often say in sales, and I'm curious your stance on this from a wrestling standpoint. I often say that, the key to life in sales, and maybe just in marriages or maybe just in life, is managing expectations. Like if we expected that this is going to be Kevin Nash coming back to join their clique and, he's the mystery partner, seeing Savio Vega is a disappointment. Should we have announced maybe on Sunday Night Heat that it was Savio Vega? Do we lose some consumer confidence when we build it up and then it's less than?
That's a interesting scenario. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't again.
Yes.
In hindsight, with the big letdown that it was, I'd probably have ran with it on Heat.
Yeah.
And got it out there.
Yeah.
And that's my gut thought. That's what I would have done. But that's not what the game plan called for. So we didn't do it. But in any event, I think I'd let the cat out of the bag on that one.
I think I would too. And here's the thing. The match is good. I want to encourage everybody to go out of your way to watch it. Let's just run through who is in the match. Steve Austin, Terry Funk, Cactus Jack, Owen Hart. We all agree, all first ballot Hall of Famers. Taking on Triple H, Billy Gunn, and the Road Dogg, and Savio Vega. Again, all Hall of Famers. But perception's reality. We were expecting Shawn Michaels or someone that was maybe even a bigger star, if that was even possible. And we were disappointed when it was Vega, but the match itself was good. Meltzer would say it was a basic FMW/ECW style and that there's going to be lots of weapons and violence. Ultimately, though, we know what happens. Stone Cold gets the win. And after the match, he gives another stunner to Billy Gunn. He's going to kick Triple H off the apron. Chyna's going to shove him twice and even flip him off. And then finally, he kicks Chyna and gives her the stunner and a huge pop. I realize that, there's certain people who aren't cool with intergender stuff. And I understand that. It does feel like it's becoming more and more common. But Chyna at this point, being yet another person to take the stunner, after Slaughter's taken it and you've taken it and Vince has taken it, a lot of people were popping big for this stunner. So maybe the Savio Vega thing was a letdown, but we're sending them home happy after that China stunner. No?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. It's good eye, Conrad. It's, you give them something to pack in their bag and go home to.
Yes.
Or with. And she was so different and so unique was Joni. Their size, her to look. She got with the hottest group. She was a key member of a strong main event level heel faction. So she was a little bit different than putting Tori Wilson out there.
Yeah.
Type thing, or Trish Stratus even. So I think it worked. This fight got over like a son of a bitch. That pop was legit, man, and strong, and from the front row to the last row, people were on their feet. They were going crazy. That's what I guess. That's little did we know. That's what they really wanted to see, and that's what was delivered.
Well, I think we all thought a lot of Owen Hart, and unbelievably, this is the last time he's going to be in the main event spot of his entire life. Of course, we know we don't have Owen much longer here, but he had main evented against his brother Brett. He had main evented in that famous tag team match, Canadian Stampede. And here it's a big multi-man tag. He's in the main event, and sadly, this is going to be his last one. I can't imagine how much fun Owen would be having with today's wrestling if he was around today's product. You know what?
Oh yeah. He would love seeing all these young guys get opportunities, and he could relate to their desire to steal the show.
Yes.
And put their bodies at enormous risk. Maybe he would be one of those voices of reason that the talents would listen to somewhat, or a little bit more, and just tune it back a little bit. I don't want matches to slow down to a crawl, but I do think you have to, as a performer, you have to allow your performance to be processed. And so you have to pull something out that you're going to pause, hesitate, let it soak into the audience. And if you can master that timing, man, you're way down the road of being highly successful and well paid.
Here's the other thing we should talk about. The way this show is received by the critics. We mentioned it was not an overwhelming success, but I just think that the crowd in the arena, they went home happy after that Austin stunner on China. When you think back on this show, is this thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle?
Definitely thumbs up. Yeah, definitely thumbs up. I thought the main event, if you want to say salvaged it, carried it, whatever, it had a lot of moving parts to it. We had a lot of guys on the card to get paid. I thought that the main event delivered in a significant and memorable way. Therefore, I would give this show a thumbs up without question.
We know that in your house is going to be something we're going to start using less and less. Of course, we started doing that a few years prior for the non-4 big pay-per-views. Now we're going to be expanding to 3 hours into the full pricing. Originally, this show was called In Your House, No Way Out. And then later it's just called No Way Out. And we're going to start to see the In Your House nomenclature start to go away. But a lot of wrestling fans think of, everything's a conspiracy, Jim. Everything means something. And of course, on the other channel, the NWO is white hot, and we're calling our event No Way Out. I could see how people might be abbreviating this In Your House NWO. Does that even cross your mind back then? No Way Out and NWO?
It just did.
Okay.
So no. So the answer is no.
There you go.
I see your point.
Yeah.
And I can see how some would overthink it. Maybe the active pro wrestling fan mind is always clicking, and they always got an opinion. They always got questions, so forth and so on. So Uh, yeah, I don't know, Connie. I don't have bad memories of that show.
Right.
I understand that we had a lot of guys booked that didn't need to be booked, but they got to be paid. And so you're working that gimmick, so to speak, paydays. And so we created a lot of paydays for guys to take that, put in their check and take it home to their family.
Jason asked a great question over on Twitter. He says, before she ate the stunner by Steve at the end of this match, which got a massive reaction, no male had ever put their hands on Chyna. Was this kind of opening the door for her to become more physical with male talent and vice versa?
Yeah, the guys that she could possibly be dancing with, so to speak, had less problems with it after they saw her interaction with Steve. That kind of opened the door. And I was never for the intergender stuff. I'm still not. If it's going to knock somebody out of a payday, I got to stop and think about that philosophy. But in general, I think women should wrestle women and not wrestle men.
Right.
So that's just me. So, and that don't mean the ones that are doing it are doing wrong. It just wouldn't be something I would book. I don't think it's believable or as believable as it should be. So, I think it opened the door there, Connie. It opened the door. So, and then, we got a little bit of mileage out of that with her and Jarrett.
Timothy Regal says, was Savio Vega really the best you guys could do? I feel like this was a bro, nobody cares moment from Russo.
I don't think Russo had a lot to do with who was going to be in that match.
Okay.
That's Vince's decision. And it's got to be run through Austin. So Austin signs off on it. Vince signs off on it. The meeting's over.
Here's one from Peter D. Hi, JR. Having 3 earlier multiple wrestler matches seems to have made the main event not as special. Did anyone in booking speak up about this? Of course, he's referencing the fact that if we have a big 10-man tag at the end, maybe we don't need all these other tags along the way.
Yeah,
Let's say you.
No, I agree with his question. But again, you have payroll obligations.
Yes.
And,
JR's on the struggle bus right now, but I'll tell you what we're not struggling with. We're not struggling to find his sauce over at jrsbbq.com. They got the regular sauce. They got the hot barbecue sauce. They got JR's red ass hot sauce, which is now a hot seller over there. I want to recommend that you don't forget about the main event mustard or the Chipotle ketchup, or my favorite, the all-purpose seasoning. Just last night, we grilled some steaks here at the Conradison. We made sure we threw some of your seasoning on there, Jim. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it's available now at jrsbbq.com.
You know what I did last night, Conrad? I went to Publix, my local grocer, and I got 2, it said meatloaf, but it was 2, like they were in a bell pepper. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah. Stuffed bell pepper.
Stuffed bell pepper, and they're stuffed with meatloaf.
Wow.
Pardon me. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. No, I just coughed. And they said on there to put your favorite spaghetti sauce or tomato sauce or whatever. So what I did was I got my bottle of our Chipotle ketchup.
Yep.
And I put it on top of the meat in which was stuffed into the bell pepper. And I cooked them at 350 for an hour. And that was my dinner last night.
I know.
And it was good stuff, man. I'm telling you, it just added a little personality to the meal. And that's all I had. I ate the bell pepper and I asked for green, and I ate the meatloaf. So that was my exciting night with jrsbarbecue.com. We work every day. Our crews are around the clock. So we hope that you'll give us a shot. A lot of packages, a lot of gift boxes. We'll do the shopping for you. You just tell us what you want. We'll ship it. We'll get it there and take care of you. And Stephen Link, who runs that site, does a good job with our customer service. Because, here's the thing about in this world. If fans don't like something, you're going to hear about it.
They'll let you know.
They'll let you know. So we appreciate everybody for letting us know, especially those of you that let us know you bought something and you enjoyed it. That's what it's all about. JRsBBQ.com. Gifts for any occasion and just for every night use, everyday use in your kitchen.
We like to say here on the show, it costs nothing to look.
Nada.
Oliver has a question for you. I can't imagine there being a louder pop during this era for Austin than when he came out. I can imagine it was challenging to commentate on the main event with everything going on. Is that a tough order when they're super hot for one guy? You got 10 folks in and around ringside, lots of moving parts. I know you're told to just call what's on the monitor. Does it make it even more challenging when it's a wild brawl like this?
A little bit, but there's so much action going on that if you lay out, you're not losing much.
Right.
So laying out in those moments is crucial and timely without question. Yeah. Austin's pop was, there's so many, you could do a whole show on Austin pops. Or it was.
Yes.
Why was it so big? Whatever. But collectively, in my career, which would be 50 years in 2024, I had never heard the pops consistently like Austin's. Just nothing like it. Scary. And it was so much fun because oftentimes at the end of the show, you needed it. He's been doing 2 hours of live television with no net and sometimes operating on the fly. I've done Raw where I didn't even have a format until the segment 3 or something. So those are hard to prepare for too, because you don't know your material's not in front of you. I mean, i.e., I don't even know who's wrestling next. That type of information, little things. It's kind of important. So anyhow, I don't know, Connie. I lost my place.
Well, we'll never lose our place here on the show, Jim, because we're going to be back next week talking about Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. We're going to talk about
one of the nicest guys in the business.
We'll talk about his run through the territory days, the WWF, the NWA, and of course his classic series with the Nature Boy. And by the way, you get all these shows early and ad free, and you don't get them any earlier than being a part of our live studio audience. We had a sold out crowd today from AdFreeShows taking a look and hanging out. Want to give a shout out to Bobby and Jim and Michael and Eddie and everybody who showed up early this morning.
Are you making those names up, Conrad? Are you making those names?
I'm not. I'll show you where to find them. In fact, we had a ton of questions from them during today's show.
Oh, good.
And we'll hang out and answer those at the conclusion of the show. I want to remind everybody, you can also check out some new bonus content from AdFreeShows.com. We just started rolling out a new series called The Book. We sit down with David Crockett to go through his brother's book, through the handwriting of J.J. Dillon, from the genius mind of Dusty Rhodes, everything that was happening in JCP in 1985. January is posted now. February is coming up soon, and we just put March in the can. We're going to march all the way through 1985. We also caught up with Gary Juster. That's a name you've heard on this program and probably every wrestling podcast in the world. But when was the last time you actually heard a Gary Juster interview? You probably never have. He just doesn't do them, but he did one with us over at AdFreeShows.com. We talked about the AWA, the NWA, WCW, Ring of Honor, and of course what he's doing these days with MLW. This past weekend, we hosted Earl Hebner to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the most famous wrestling angle and the most watched wrestling angle of all time, the evil twin heel referee with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant.
I love that.
Earl Hebner was here watching it with us, telling us what happened. AdFreeShows.com, Jim. It's a big value. It's a big bonus for every wrestling fan, is it not?
Man, if you're a wrestling fan, you got a wrestling fan in your life, what a gift idea. What a gift idea. It keeps on giving because there's new content every day.
Yes.
So it's just an amazing creation that Conrad and his team have come up with. They do a hell of a good job. I'm doing another another bonus episode.
Yes.
Of some ilk in February with Casio. And who's on that show with us? Is anybody else on that show, Conrad? I don't think so.
I'm not sure, man. We got bonus stuff every single week happening at AdFreeShows.com. More than we can even keep up with here, boys and girls. Go take a look right now at AdFreeShows.com. And if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube. It's one thing to hear JR. It's another thing to see him. It's Grilling JR on YouTube.com. You can also keep up with the show at JR Grilling on Twitter and Instagram. It's Grilling JR on Facebook. Jim would be proud to have your follow as well at JR's BBQ. I am Matt. Hey, it's Conrad. And you can get all of our merch over at grillingjrtees.com, including the now infamous Where's My Push, Damn It t-shirt. That's all at grillingjrtees.com. Jim, today's show was fun, but I'm pumped for next week, man. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, here we come.
Yeah, it should be fun. Also, we haven't mentioned the Super Bowl. I think we should.
Who you got?
Well, you know, you and I were talking before we started recording. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I have friends, legitimate friends that are from Oklahoma, that played at Oklahoma, that have been in my home, et cetera, that play for both teams. A backup tight end, the starting left tackle, the starting center for the Chiefs are all OU guys, and their long snapper, James Winchester. And then on the other side of the coin, you got Jalen Hurts, who we claim as one of ours. I know that's arguable because he played at Alabama 2 or 3 years, whatever it was. But we claim him. He finished with us. And Lane Johnson, the right tackle, number 65, I think he is. So I got a lot of my buddies in this game. But I don't, but it's just too bad that we know that Mahomes is not going to be at a total 100%, no matter what anybody says.
Right.
You don't heal from that injury that quick.
That's right.
And maintain your mobility. So with that question mark, that dark cloud looming over this scenario, I'm going to go with the Eagles. And I hope that it can't be a tie. They can't go Broadway. There's got to be a winner. So, but I'm thinking because of the uncertainty of Mahomes' ankle, and if his ankle's good, then I might be singing a different tune. But that's on Sunday. A lot of Sooner influence. I'm proud of those kids. They're playing the biggest game of their life. They've been wanting to play this game forever since they were little kids. Here they are. Here's your shot.
Today's the day. It's going to be fun, man. It's this Sunday. I got the Eagles. I think everybody who doesn't have a dog in the hunt looks to see, hey, who do I know on these teams? Who are the kids I like to follow? Who did I watch in college? And I think you and I are both pulling for Mr. Hurts. So let's hope he pulls it off.
That's right. That's right, Connie. Good job today, Conrad. I thought we had a good show. It
was a great show, and I appreciate all of you guys joining in and tagging along with us. We'll see you next week right here on Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
And I'll see you Friday night on Rampage on TNT.
Can't believe this is real, but Wooo Wings, your very own virtual restaurant concept, is now open, and fans can enjoy the legendary flavors and world championship wings by ordering with their Uber Eats or Postmates app. Wooo Wings is now open in Nashville, San Antonio, Jacksonville, as well as Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, right here in Alabama. Many more locations coming soon. As a virtual restaurant, Wooo Wings is looking to partner with existing restaurants in major metro areas. Tell your favorite sports bar or local restaurant you want Wooo Wings in your town, and to visit RicFlairWings.com for more information on how to become a partner. But if you're in Nashville, San Antonio, Jacksonville, Huntsville, or Tuscaloosa, hop on your Uber Eats or Postmates app and look for Wooo Wings and try the only chicken wings worthy of carrying the name of the 16-time world heavyweight champion, Wooo Wings. Be sure to check out RicFlairWings.com to become a partner.